Hi, welcome back to my channel. So I am gonna do a video about ego death. Now I've wrote some notes for some of it so it will be easier to explain and so I don't get off track with some things. And then I will talk about my experience. Okay, so I made some notes so that it is easier for you guys to understand. Ego death. Your old life falls away and things that was no longer serving you fall away from your life. Even things that you might have liked. It doesn't mean that, it just means that those things weren't good for you even if you didn't notice. Certain behaviors will fall away, things like that. My advice is don't fight this, because when you fight it, it gets worse. And it gets harder when you do fight it. The feeling of separation disappears. You feel connected to the universe, nature, and the divine. So you start to realize a lot of truths. And you start to realize that the world around you isn't what it seems to be. And you really I realized that quite strongly, actually. I knew a little bit before I had my awakening, because I had many awakenings before that, but they were small. So I wasn't as deeply affected, and I fought it most of the time. But this huge awakening I had was very much different, and it affected me greatly. But it would have been so much worse for me if I fought it like I used to. Brain activity shift. Brain scans show that psychedelics or deep meditation sharply lowers activity in the default mode network triggers. It can happen with intense meditation or near-death experiences, and the terror of letting go, because the ego fights for survival. It does. So it makes things hard. The onset can feel like a physical death, causing fear and panic. A new perspective. People who get through it often lose their fear of death and have a deep peace or renewal. Reconstruction. Your normal identity eventually returns, but you see old habits and worries as less important. So that being said, let's get into my experience. So you at first might notice a lot of the things that you did wrong in your life that you didn't know was an issue. That was my experience. Not only that, the things that you were fighting were the things you were resisting to do or say or whatever will literally fall away. So here's my experience with that. So whether you recognize this part or not, like say you have a friend and you think that friend is great, but then during this awakening things start happening, or you might become disinterested in this friend, or something comes out about this friend, and then you stop talking to this friend. Because that friend was draining your energy and was not good for you. Now, my experience. Someone was waving at me, I'm sorry. I'm just very polite. So my experience was my family. I didn't really have friends, but my family was something that I always wanted to be connected to. I always wanted my family to love me and accept me. I'm an ex-foster kid, so of course I have trauma and things. I grew up in the troubled teen industry, so I have a lot on that. I have videos on that whole experience on this channel already, so go check them out. And so of course I was holding on to my family like my life depended on it. Now, I was off and on with my family. I would let them in, they would hurt me, I would leave, and then I would let them back in my life, and it was just a big cycle, and it was not good for me. They did things that most people would have left, would have never let them back in their life. And I had to recognize my worth. I recognized my worth, and I separated from them. I instantly blocked every single one of them. And because I knew they were hurting my life, they were also hurting the relationship I was in. And I had negative patterns that were surfacing or would come back and leave and stuff. When I had them in my life, those patterns would resurface. And so it was a good thing. I had to let them go. It was really hard for me though, of course. The feeling of separation disappears. You feel connected to the universe and nature and the divine. I went through that. Like, I feel more connected to the divine and nature than any time that I ever did. And sometimes I see the visuals, and this doesn't have to be for everyone, but sometimes I see the visuals of the illusion falling away and all there is energy. And I know some people will think I'm nuts. That's completely fine. Your opinion is none of my business, which is what I just said is also a part of the ego death journey. So the way to heal is to realize that the way that people think of you is none of your business. The only thing that matters is how you feel, and make sure that you have healthy people around you who actually care for you. So I will say that back in the day, before we had all this luxury, our brains were set up to protect ourselves. Whether we were being chased by a tiger or vice versa, our brain was set up to protect us. But now we don't have all that other stuff. We have stress about all this other stuff, but our brains are still working that way. So what ends up happening is our brain ends up trying to attack anything new, and it hurts us, because when we want to evolve and do anything, it hinders us if we follow our fear and our doubt. Our fear and our doubt is literally our brains trying to protect us. It's not doing a good enough job, because it's literally keeping us from following our joy and doing things that will actually benefit us. Because when you get past the fear and the doubt, that's false, by the way, you will start elevating and start experiencing new things. And I will say that my fear and my doubt kept me trapped. I was in an intense loop. And I couldn't get out. I literally would create a prison in my head, and I didn't even know that. The weight that has been lifted off of me because of that is a lot. So I will just preface the fact that everyone should go through this experience, even if it's hard. Now, I will say that since working with or rejecting the ego and fear and doubt and rejecting negative thoughts, I have felt liberated. There is a weight that has been lifted off of me, and it's something that I aggressively notice. Like, of course, even if you go through an ego death, I have never heard of anybody completely getting rid of their ego. But what I will say is that the more you develop repetition with rejecting the ego, the easier it gets. So this is what I did. Anytime I had any type of fear or doubt or negative thought, I rejected it. I said it was not mine. Oh, that's not my thought. That doesn't need to be in my head. And then I would envision the negative thoughts, the fear, the doubt going out of my head. So I would envision and do breathing exercises, which is just breathing, deep breathing, and visualizing dark smoke as those negative situations leaving the top of my crown and out of my head, and feeling peace. Now, I will say, when you first get started on this, it is hard. But now it's kind of like repetition for me. Even though I'm doing better, and I do feel the liberation and that I'm no longer in a prison anymore, I will say that there are still times where you will struggle. There are times where you will be sad and upset, depending on the situation you're in. And it's basically you processing these things. Old traumas might come up. You might start getting triggered, or the divine will send triggers to you to see if you are still being triggered. And I think the longer you learn not to fight it and you grow from this, the easier it will get, and you won't be triggered as hard, or if at all, by things that used to trigger you. So that being said, it's just the process, and it can be a long process for some, but you actually have to do the work. And I would recommend meditating, whether it's music meditating, silent meditating, or something that I call body meditation, where you start at the crown or you start at the bottom of your body. And so if you start let's say you start at your crown, you would think aggressively about each part of your body all the way down. You could also use your chakras as well. You can be like the crown chakra, the third eye, the throat chakra, and you can just go down until you get to the root. Either one works. And it will help you not only reduce stress, but it will also help you work through a lot of stuff. Now, I recommend you also get good sleep. And before you say you don't have time for that, make time for it, because your sleep should be a priority. And the other, not just because of your health, but because of the fact that when you are in dream state, you process things. So I recommend you get a dream journal and you write down every dream that you remember from your dreams. Make sure you date it and things like that so things make sense. Try to write maybe the time that you woke up when you realized this dream, because that matters too. Everything in this realm is literally a sign being mirrored back at you. Now, I don't recommend you always track these signs, but it's there. And so make sure you do your dream journal. Make sure that you are taking care of yourself. Okay, you're eating healthy, you're drinking the proper amount of water. And yes, I'm saying that even though I struggle with both. I know that it is important, so I'm saying it now. Try to elevate, heighten your energy. Eat things that are more energetic and have a higher vibration. A lot of fruits and vegetables have a higher vibration. There are a lot of foods that have a lower vibration. I can do a video on that if someone is interested. If you're interested, put that in the comment section. But I just thought to tell you that because you're going through an awakening and it's hard and you need to take care of yourself. So the ego death thing, it will be a process. You may never fully get rid of your evil roommate in your head, and that's completely fine. You just need to learn how to work against this evil roommate in your head to continue to elevate and grow. And I am currently doing that myself. I'm not exactly sure if I've gone through a full ego death. I just know that I'm experiencing a ego death, and I got to a point where there is blissful states. Now, that isn't to say that you're not going to get sad or upset or mad or whatever it is. Just don't stay in it, because when you stay in those states, you are staying in a lower vibration, which means that you're easily attackable in the spiritual realm. So make sure that you are taking care of yourself. If you take care of yourself, you're getting good sleep, you're paying attention, make sure you're paying attention. You know, that's why I said, make sure you do your dream journal, because maybe you might have a prophetic dream. Maybe you might have a dream that seems really confusing, but to a trained eye, they can see that you are processing certain emotions, or you're tracking you can literally track your spiritual journey and your progress and where you are through your dreams. Of course, I don't know if everyone can. I just know that I can, with the spiritual awakening that I'm going through. So it's a process, and if you want to hear more from me, because I have a lot of knowledge in this noggin, please subscribe and like my video so you can see more content. And if there's any more content that you want to learn about, please put it in my comment section so that I can help you and help others who may be interested in these topics. Thank you for watching. Bye.